Looking at our world from a theological perspective. This is the Theology Central Podcast, making theology central.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is Wednesday, July the 21st, 2021. It is currently 3:49 p.m. Central Time, and I'm coming to you live from Victory Baptist Church, located right here in Ovalo, Texas. I'm here in the empty sanctuary of Victory Baptist Church, and I will be back here about 6:40 p.m. For our live evening service, which will begin at 7 p.m., and we will be live streaming. Most likely that will occur under the Theology Central podcast. So if you want to listen to us live tonight. Now, what I need to be doing is packing up right now and headed back home so that I can get ready to come back here. But I can't leave. Okay, now I am so torn here. I almost turned on the microphone to go live to do another Bible study exercise on Psalm 37. We need to get back to Psalm 37. We need to finish that psalm. I think we've done a very good job on the psalm so far. I think we've really kind of given us an idea of what it's really trying to say. We've taken out apart some very important principles. I think we've done a very good job with Psalm 37. So hopefully you've benefited from it. And as always, you can you drive this train, right? So if you want some more parts, some more study on Psalm 37, please let me know. newsif@yahoo.com. newsif@yahoo.com. If you think I've given you enough with Psalm 37 that you don't need anything else, you can finish the rest on your own, then that's okay. Because remember, the Bible study exercises are designed where I do some of the work and I give you the rest. So if you feel like I got you far enough along and you're good to go, if there's something else in Psalm 37 we haven't covered and you're like, I don't get that, I don't know what's going on, let me know and we will address it. So, and if you are working on Psalm 37, doing some of those assignments, please email them to me, newsif@yahoo.com. Now, I was going to call this a Bible study exercise, but I chose not to because I wanted to put the thesis question right there in the title. In fact, let me open up my app really quick. I want to open up the app to make sure. Now I don't even remember exactly how I typed it out. Yes, is Psalm 48 about the church? That's the title. Is Psalm 48 about the church? That's the thesis statement. So the goal here is I'm going to explain why I'm asking this question, and then I'm going to kind of present the problem to you, and then I'm going to I don't know how many people are going to participate. I mean, I know I put forth so much content in a week that you can't keep up with everything, but if you participate, I'm going to be fascinated to see what people say. Now, let's just a couple of rules right here from the start. Before you even start trying to answer this question, is Psalm 48 about the church? A couple of things. Number one, whatever your presuppositions are, whatever you have been taught, whatever your view of eschatology may be, all of your systems of theology, everything, set all of that aside, because all that does is now, here's what it happens so many times. What we learn in the past becomes literally the blinders of learning anything in the present. Because we learn something about Psalm 48. Maybe you went to a church and Psalm 48 is about the church. And you're like, okay, I believe that. And then from that point on, every time you open up your Bible to Psalm 48, you think it's about the church. Well, is it really about the church? Or you just, the past teaching is a blinder to you discovering truth in the present? You always have to set aside whatever you've learned in the past and relook at the text anew in the present. That's what you have to do, because if you're not infallible, and whoever you listen to, they're not infallible. So you have to constantly be going, okay, wait a minute. What is this text really about? And I would challenge you. So first of all, throw out whatever you've learned in the past. And secondly, what is your method of hermeneutic? Now, if you're going to throw out what I believe is the correct method, the grammatical, historical method, okay, grammatical, historical, I'm going to put in literal, right? Other than when it's using a figure of speech. But unless you're going to rely on some kind of allegorical method, I'm going to have a hard time figuring out how in the world you think Psalm 48 is about the church. But clearly there are people who believe it is. And so this is what we're going to do. I'm going to present to you what I heard a couple of hours ago. I grabbed my mobile device. I'm going to open it up really quick. And I went to my podcasting app. The podcasting app I went to was Procast. I did a whole podcast about Procast. If you download the Procast podcasting app, I think it's amazing. It's now my favorite app. Please subscribe to Theology Central, VBC, all of our podcasts, VBC Bible Institute. We're going to figure out what to do with that here soon. But I went to Procast, and one of the things I did when I downloaded Procast is I did a search for sermon audio MP3, I think, and I found the sermon audio MP3 file where all of the new sermons are just automatically show up in your feed. So I did a refresh, and it was like, 75 sermons are available, and I saw one called 6 Strong Towers. 6 Strong Towers, and I'm like, oh, that looks interesting, 6 Strong Towers, and I hit play. I'm like, okay, all right. I think it begins in the book of Micah. All right, that's good. All right, I think it goes to Zechariah. All right, okay. It starts talking about the names of God. So basically, to summarize the sermon, the names of God, there are 6 names of God that basically, this person says, become 6 strong towers in your Christian life, right? So we need to know these names of God. It's an interesting concept. I started doing my own work on it. I may try to put it together and kind of preach it in a different way, but I will give obviously credit to that being the inspiration for it. But I'll have to see, or it may turn into some Bible study exercises. Who knows? It's going to turn into something. It'll show up somewhere. But not in the middle, at about 7 minutes into the sermon, he makes a statement about Psalm. I believe it's Psalm 48. Got to verify with all my notes. So yes, Psalm 48. He makes a comment about Psalm 48, and he connects Psalm 48 basically to being about the church. And I'm like, wait, what? What? Wait, what? Where did you get this? So let's listen to what was said in the sermon. This is called 6 Strong Towers. It's available on Sermon Audio. By all means, download it, listen to it. By all means, this is not even about trying to criticize the person who preached it. I'm not into all of that. I just like hearing a different perspective and then going, wait a minute. All right, let's work on this. So as always, I'm going to put this before you, and then together, let's work on Psalm 48 and see if we can demonstrate that Psalm 48 is actually about the church. And to do that, what hermeneutical method do you have to utilize? All right, let's see what they have to say and see if they give us any clue. Here we go.
Zion, which we looked in our study in Psalm 48, and we saw that Zion is another name for the church.
Stop right there. So if they had done a study in Psalm 48, and they discovered that Zion is another name for the church. Now, a couple of questions. Here we go. You ready? Number 1, I want you to see if you can prove that Zion is another name for the church. Right? That's number 1. If you prove that Zion is a name for the church, can you then, because I bet you're not going to discover that until you get to the New Testament, right? So then do you take, in the New Testament, they refer to the church as Zion. Do I take that truth, maybe exposed in the New Testament, if you find it, I want you to see if you find it. Do I take that, then import it back into the Old Testament and say, here, it talks about the church. It talks about Zion. That's the church. In other words, the original recipients of any of the Old Testament books, when Zion was mentioned, would they have like, oh, that's the church? No, they wouldn't have known that. What would they have thought Zion was? How would they have understood the concept of Zion, the original recipients of Psalm 48? Can I take, if I can prove that the New Testament refers to the church as Zion, can I take that, incorporate that back into Psalm 48 and go, boom, there it is. It now works. All right, so first, I want you to work to prove that Zion is another name for the church. And then number 2, I want you to make justify you taking it from wherever you find it and then pushing that interpretation of that understanding back into Psalm 48. And does it work, or does it destroy the actual meaning of Psalm 48? All right, let's see what else they have to say here.
Turn, if you would, to Psalm 48, verse 13. Do you know that Zion has strong towers protecting her? Oh, bulwarks and palaces. Psalm 48. Look at verse 12. And this is a survey of Zion, a survey of the church.
Stop right there. Psalm 48 is a survey, or at least part of it is a survey of Zion, which means it's a survey of the church. And he's getting ready to read Psalm 48, verse 12. Walk about Zion. So walk about the church, go around about her, tell the towers thereof, mark ye well her bulwarks, consider her palaces, that you may tell it to the generation following. Now, supposedly that's about the church. And the tower there, the towers are actually the names of God. Now, how does that work? All right, let's see what he says.
Walk about Zion and go round about her. Tell the towers thereof. She has towers, beloved. Towers for defense. And bulwarks. Strong fortifications. Mark ye well her bulwarks. Consider her palaces, that she may tell it to the generation following. For this God is our God, forever and ever. He will be our guide even unto death. So she has strong towers. She has towers round about her. Mark ye well her bulwarks. Consider her palaces, that ye may tell it to the generation following. Proclaim it to the generation that we live in. So I'd like us to consider 6 names of the Lord today.
There you have it. It's just a very brief comment. Obviously they supposedly did a sermon, a study of Psalm 48 and I guess demonstrated that Zion is the church. And then wherever they found that proof, they incorporated it back into Psalm 48 and then read Psalm 48 as a study of the church. Now that to me is some hermeneutical gymnastics there that may be worthy of an Olympic gold medal. Okay, I'm trying to figure. I bet you, I could be wrong, but I bet you if I pick up a Matthew Henry commentary, I bet you that's what I'm going to find. I bet you this is very on par with what Matthew Henry would do with it, because Matthew Henry does that with everything in the Old Testament. There's the church. Church. It's like Israel doesn't even, as a nation, doesn't even exist. Nothing. Everything's the church, other than if a curse or judgment is on Israel, that's not the church. That's Israel. Okay. But all the good and the blessings and everything, that's all the church. It's some crazy gymnastics. But I want you to, so here's what I want you to do. I want you to find scriptures that you think would demonstrate, yes, you can call the church Zion. All right. Then once you discover that, then I need you to then demonstrate how you can take that truth and then incorporate it back into the Old Testament anywhere Zion is found. And if you do that, what do you end up with? Now, the word Zion, I'm interested here in the Old Testament. Let's do this. I know I'm doing this like a Bible study exercise, but that's okay. I'm going to open up the Blue Letter Bible app. I'm going to type in Zion. Okay, let's go to the Old Testament. All right, let's hit go. 153 verses Zion occurs. The first place it occurs, and now I know some people make a big deal out of the first usage. Some say that the first usage of a word is very important in defining what that word means and how we understand it. Here is how it is the first place it appears. 2 Samuel 5:7. Nevertheless, David took the stronghold of Zion. The same is the city of David. Now that would mean Zion there is the church. I don't think I can incorporate church back into that. This would be an actual city, right? 1 Kings 8:1. Then Solomon assembled the elders of Israel and all the heads of the tribes, the chief of the fathers of the children of Israel, unto King Solomon in Jerusalem, that they may bring out the ark of the covenant of the Lord out of the city of David, which is Zion. So is Jerusalem Zion? So now is Zion the church? So then Jerusalem becomes the church. So then anywhere in the Old Testament I read about Jerusalem and I read about Zion, I'm reading about the church? Is that like, how far do you take that? So here's what I want you to do. Find anywhere in the New Testament, because you're going to have to go to the New Testament to find where the church is referred to as Zion. Second, justify incorporating that back into Psalm 48. Then number 3, and I always do this, when I disagree with a doctrinal position, I immediately stop disagreeing. I will go along with it and then take it to its logical conclusion and see where I end up. So after you've done number 1 and number 2, number 3, here's what I want you to do. Go through Psalm 48 and interpret that as being about the church, and tell me how, and then write out what that looks like. What does that look like? All right? That's your job. All right? And then when you're done, you can then tell me what hermeneutic you used. Did you use a grammatical, historical one, or did you go full-blown allegorical? All right? And if you went full-blown allegorical, then why does anything have any actual literal meaning of any? I mean, if anything can be whatever you want it to be, then why does anything have any actual literal meaning? All right? There we go. I'll stop right there. I just wanted to introduce this, and then we'll come back and do some more work on it. All right? Maybe we'll do it. I don't know. Well, there's a lot of different places. There's so much we could do here, but we won't right now. We won't right now. Okay? So, all right. I look forward to seeing what you have to say about this, because I found it as soon as I heard that, I immediately stopped. You can't see, but I have my little journal right here that I carry with me everywhere. And as soon as I heard that in that sermon, I hit pause and I went and grabbed my notebook. See, where did I write it? What page did I write it on? See here. I wrote it. Oh, here it is. Is Psalm 48 a survey of the church? Now, if I've got the question, now you have the question. Now let's work together. We'll see what we can find. Should be a fun, interesting look and study, and we'll see how it ends up. It may turn into sermons. You may hear it talked about in Sunday school. Who knows? You may even hear about it talked about tonight. Who knows? No, tonight we got to go back to the book of Joel, and we've got to do some work in Joel and Acts chapter 2. That's what we've got to do tonight. So, because we've got to finish that up as well. Yeah. So, and we need to work on Psalm 37. I wish I had 2 church services tonight, and we would just do that. But we'll get back to Psalm 37 maybe on Friday. All right. I'll stop right there. Everyone have a great evening, and we'll be back live on the air at about 7 p.m. Central Time. So get the Spreaker app, and you can listen to us live as we work on Joel chapter 2 and Acts chapter 2. Should be interesting. All right. Everyone have a great night. God bless.